So we spent the better part of a week plus going position group by position group, looking at the Saints for 2020. As the Saints have made each of their assistant coaches available to the media via teleconference. And so we've gone position group by position group, and the one we haven't discussed yet is quarterbacks. And what's interesting about quarterbacks this year, obviously, is that it's the one position where really there is no competition at the top. We all know it's Drew Brees' team. It will be, for better or worse. Drew Brees is, we all know, the greatest player in the history of this franchise. He's come back for one more run. He wants to make a run at a Super Bowl. Largely, whatever the Saints do and whatever they achieve will be on the right arm of number 9. And we all know that, and that's a given. In all of the audio that I have here from Joe Lombardi, there's not one single cut about Drew Brees because we know what Drew is, and that's a given. What is fascinating is Taysom Hill has become sort of this he's become this fascination in the NFL that other teams are now trying to copycat. But could he realistically be the starter after Drew Brees? Maybe. But there has to be lingering doubt, which is why they signed Jameis Winston. Could Winston live up to the expectation of being the number 1 overall pick? Maybe. And then they draft Tommy Stevens. Huh? So, Joe Lombardi, let's start with the biggest news, which is adding which is adding Jameis Winston to the quarterback room, and why.
You can tell that he's got a lot of personality. He's a charismatic guy, fun to talk to. And that's another reason I kind of wish we would have been able to get in person, because you can tell he's got a lot of energy. And, I think you'll feel that even more when you're person to person with somebody. But you can tell he works hard. You can tell he loves football. So we're excited to have him.
Isn't it even more interesting, though, that they never met face-to-face and he still signed with New Orleans? It speaks to how intimately they know the player, because for 5 years now, they've had to stare at him twice a year. They've had to look at him on film, post-game, pre-game, all that stuff. They know him and he knows them, which is in part why they were attracted to Jameis Winston.
I mean, what did he throw? He threw for over 5,000 yards last year. So he's a guy that makes big plays. And, that's always exciting to see someone who's got that ability to hit the ball downfield. I think he's probably a little more athletic than people give him credit for. And so it's fun when you see someone with those kind of tools who put him into play like he does. And, he moves the ball and scores points. And, he was a first-round draft pick for a reason. And we're real excited to have him on board.
Not only a first-round pick, the number 1 overall pick for a reason. As we've detailed, Jameis is down 17 pounds. He's gone vegan. He had LASIK. He had knee surgery. He played the last part of last season, last 3 games, with a broken thumb. How much better can he be? That's the other thing Lombardi talked about, Winston improving patience and decision-making.
There's a simple magic answer for that. It's a lot of studying, understanding what we're trying to accomplish with our routes, the timing of our routes, how the footwork matches up to the routes. And, we talk a lot about having your feet talk to your decision making. Like if you're at this point in your drop, you've taken one hit, your eye should be going over here. So it's just making that second nature. I think, like I said, you can tell he's very smart. He's picked up what we've been teaching quickly, and so he understands it, but going out there and feeling it and seeing it so that you can trust it, that's going to be the race that we're all in come training camp.
So they know the player. They're excited about having him in the room, but there is this other weird, elephant in the room, which is Taysom Hill, who they just gave a big contract to, who they love, who is involved in so many different ways, and who has made it known he wants to be a quarterback in the NFL. And if to be that, he has to do it outside of New Orleans, he's willing to do that. So if you are New Orleans, you know that you've got Drew Brees, but you've got these other guys that you really want to get a good look at under center for the future. So how do you handle quarterback reps with Taysom Hill when he's going to do so many other things?
it'll just be where he falls in that slot as far as taking reps. I mean, he's even in years past, he's worked more at quarterback during training camp and off season. So I think that'll be similar. He's might get I can't say a few more reps because he's always got the full load of reps the last couple years or however long he's been in training camp with us. So I think it'll be similar. Maybe we'll incorporate a little bit more in practice as far as some of the unique things that he does. Yeah, I think it'll be similar, and just look for him to keep improving like he's been doing.
Lombardi, again, this is Joe Lombardi talking on a teleconference to New Orleans media about the quarterback room as they head into 2020. More on Taysom Hill and his growth as a quarterback.
Just timing of plays, like when you're in the pocket and you're so used to seeing how Drew plays, we get spoiled with that. Like when the ball comes out of his hand, there's an anticipation level and there's a trust level. I think he went a long time where it was always like, man, that you could have got rid of it a hitch earlier, let's say. And he's got such a strong arm, he often would catch up to it, where maybe the ball arrived at the same time that it would have Drew threw it because he just threw it faster, but he was later and maybe his eyes stuck there a little bit too long, which may give a defensive back time to break on it. And on some point, that ball started coming out a hitch earlier. So for me, the biggest jump, and there's a number of things, but if you wanted to highlight one thing, it was that ball was coming out of his hand earlier with consistency.
We'll see if that continues in this preseason and what is likely going to be a modified preseason with perhaps only 2 preseason games, which will limit the reps for those guys. And then there's this weird wild card as the Saints traded back into this year's draft to select Tommy Stevens out of Mississippi State. So what the heck do they do with this guy?
Yeah, I think it we'll see how it shakes out. I think a lot of it depends on how big a load Drew takes during training camp. If he takes days off or how many days off we decide to take with him, that'll obviously affect Tommy. I think it'll be a little bit maybe like when JT Barrett was here during training camp and he doesn't get as many reps maybe, but we put him in there and the better he does, the more reps he gets. And he may work in with some of the things that Taysom does on offense in a H-back type mode. So we'll figure all that out as we go.
He may work into the Taysom. No kidding. That's exactly like but comparing him to JT Barrett's not a great thing because Barrett didn't make the team. It's a practice squad guy, and that's what Tommy Stevens is going to be. Okay. The question is, do you feel like there's a spot for him to contribute other than being the heir apparent to the Taysom Hill role if next year Breeze is gone and Hill becomes a starter, Hill moves on, and you need that guy? I mean, you invested a draft pick and traded back into the draft to get him. So what's the value? Find out. But I'll continue to say, as much as some of you don't want to hear this, I cannot see a way that Tommy Stevens makes the 53-man roster. He is a practice squad guy that they hope they can stash, and then next year, maybe, depending on how the dominoes fall, maybe he finds a role. But I understand why there's great interest in that, because anytime it's a quarterback, especially when you trade into the draft at a 4th guy, there's going to be intrigue, especially in New Orleans where they found creative ways to get these guys involved. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.